talk about living paycheck to paycheck. You're not getting paid, 30 to 90 days out. And now you're
Yeah.
having to, wait tables on the side or get a temp job just
Yeah.
to make ends meet. At the time, I was trying to work with a company that was selling houses. At the time, I was just an administrator, just pushing paperwork, and I was very unhappy. And for me, it was definitely life altering. And
Yeah.
it just really made me think about what I wanted. I don't have a college education. I don't have a background in construction. And they're like, it doesn't matter. 100% is thinking on your feet. There are plenty of people that are willing to help you and to train you. I never would have guessed in a million years that this would have been the industry that I fell in love with. Realistically, we all work, right, to pay bills so that we can live, so that we can go and be able to do things that we enjoy. This industry is very lucrative. I mean, my mother, she has a master's in psychology and a bachelor's in human resources. Very intelligent, very smart. And, my grandparents before her, they were also college graduates. My father decided to forgo college and start a business. So I had two sides basically telling me, go to college. The other said, start a business. And I learned from both of them. And the reality is that I just didn't find anything that jumped out at me. I just want to empower the younger generations. I want to get in front of the younger generations, women, and really show them what this industry is.
Failure is like everything else in life, it's just between
never fail.
I need to know to get to where I want to go.
Amanda, nice to see you and welcome to the Feck It No More podcast. Amanda is a project coordinator working in construction, and she's here to have a little talk about her journey as a female into the construction industry. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it.
Amanda, look, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It is a story I'm very passionate about. I have worked with quite a few females in construction in my previous roles for the last 5-10 years, and especially as a coach for the last 5 years. And I think the more females we can have in construction, the better. So I really appreciate you coming on and giving your perspective and your story. The podcast is about that Feck It No More moment where you were like, things must change. Can I ask you what that was for you before we go too far into this?
Yeah, sure. It was around COVID time, and I was working, temp jobs left and right because I guess at the time, nobody was hiring. Nobody was really doing anything. I mean, the whole world shut down. And I just kind of was looking up at my life, and I didn't really realize how far I had gotten, to the point where I didn't recognize my life. I didn't recognize my job. I was very unhappy, and I think the rest of the world was too. But I just kind of looked around and said, this is not my life. This is not the kind of job I want. This is not it. I got to do something. And that was kind of like the moment. The whole world shut down. You just kind of have a lot of time to think about.
Yeah. So you think that time that you had was a good way for you to look into the future and go, this is not what I want to be doing long term?
Yeah.
Because quite often whenever we have that downtime, it gives us that moment to think and reflect.
It was for most people. A lot of people changed careers, changed their lives. Some people changed countries entirely around that time. And for me, it was definitely life altering. And it just really made me think about what I wanted. And luckily at the time, I met some people who gave me insight.
Amanda, can I ask you where you're based? What part of the world are you in?
Yeah, I'm in the United States, Mickey Mouse Land, Central Florida.
Love Florida. I've been to Florida a couple of times, actually. I like it a lot. What is moving into construction like? You said that you got some good advice from some good people. What does it look like moving into construction? I'm guessing that's COVID's 2001-ish, so it's maybe about 6-7 years ago, is it? At this stage, 5 years ago?
Yeah, about 4.5, 5 years ago.
Okay. You get some good advice that you should try out this construction thing. What did that look like? Or can you talk us through a little bit more what was happening at that stage?
Yeah, sure. So at the time, I was trying to work with a company that was selling houses. At the time, I was just an administrator, just pushing paperwork, and I was very unhappy. And I have been speaking with a developer who had worked for the company, and they were telling me, yeah, you should really get into commercial construction. And I said, what do you mean? How could I get into commercial construction? I'm a girl. Like I can barely lift, an axe. Like, what do you
Mm.
mean? And they're like, oh, there's so much more to construction than just lifting an axe. And he's like, I have so many people that are women that are running jobs. They're project managers, they're project coordinators. They're doing exactly what you're doing, but for construction. And there's so many jobs out there. The demand is crazy, and with like a little bit of training you could be very successful. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't have a college education, I don't have a background in construction. And they're like, it doesn't matter, you don't have to have everything figured out. A lot of companies will actually take the time to train you. And at the time, that was just like a little seed. I was like, oh, this guy, he's just being friendly. He probably
Doesn't really
doesn't
mean
really
it.
know. So I went home that day and I just started doing a little bit of research. And I was like, wow, like this guy actually might be making some sense. And so I had spoken to a realtor friend of mine who she had been in real estate for, God, 20 something years. And I asked her, did she ever see women working in construction,
Construction.
specifically commercial construction? She goes, oh yeah, some of my really good friends they own a construction company in California. And I'm just like, what? And she's like, oh yeah, they make really good money too. So if that's something you want to do, I know a couple of companies that are hiring. And at the time, I was like, yeah, but I can't move to California. She's like, oh, all right, well, no problem. But you should really look into it. So, that was like the second person that kind of solidified that it was an option.
Yeah.
So that's when I started doing some research, and that's when I just decided, all right, I'm just going to start applying. Lo and behold, after I think like a week or two, I got a call back and went for an interview, and I got hired within 2.5 weeks after.
Excellent.
And that was my first job. And I started actually as an administrative assistant in construction. And then within that year, I was a project coordinator. And that's another thing. You can start in one field and work your way up.
There's a lot of different opportunities.
Very lucrative and definitely eye-opening. It was a life-altering event for me in a positive way.
Can I ask how maybe people around you took the decision to move into construction? Like, how did your family, how did your friends react to a decision like that?
Oh, they thought I was crazy. They thought I was nuts. My mom was, she was just like, you're going into what? You're going into commercial construction? Like, you've never worked outside a day in your life. And my dad was more along the lines of, there's going to be, you're going to work with a lot of men. Are you okay with that? Which again, valid concern because I was, his oldest daughter and his first, so.
You were his baby.
Yeah, I was his baby, and that was a big concern for him. But the funny thing is that in construction, working with a lot of the men, they all have daughters. They all have, sisters and mothers, and
Very true.
it's the complete opposite of what a lot of people perceive the construction industry to be. It's very much family oriented and so supportive. I mean, I've gotten so much support from my male counterparts who really, they literally say, I wish my daughter would get into this field, or I wish I could convince other people that are women to get into this field because it is a great industry. It really is. And now my family's very supportive now, obviously.
Of course. Have you any friends or people that are in construction also, or have you been able to encourage other people to come in?
Nope. I've talked to a couple of friends, and oddly enough, a lot of them are in IT. They're like, oh, well, I mean, yeah, that's great, but you should come over to IT. And I'm like, oh, I'm happy. I'm so happy in this industry.
What is it that you enjoy the most about the construction industry?
I think really it's the people, the work ethic, and just being able to take something that literally it's nothing. It's just a slab. It's literally nothing. And then to create something and realize that you are a part of something much bigger than yourself. So you're talking about hospitals or schools, or you live your life in these buildings. It's cool to be able to be a part of shaping, my community in a positive way.
Yeah, definitely to leave an impact on the community, and also to see something go from not being there to being completed, I think is also very special as well. It's something I always enjoyed about it.
Yeah.
What do you think is some of the skills that it teaches you fairly early on? Like what was the big things that you maybe noticed that you didn't expect to learn or develop?
100% is thinking on your feet. You know, there are plenty of people that are willing to help you and to train you. But once you get into this industry, you really have to just trust your instincts and to really have that confidence to step out on the floor and say, you know, this doesn't look right, or we need permits, or we need, you know, we need another person here working this job because we have a deadline to finish.
Falling behind.
Yeah, you're very much your own boss in a sense that like you are responsible for your own actions and there are other people that are counting on you. Whereas in real estate, there's nobody. It's just the seller and the buyer and that's it. There's nothing else.
Nobody in between.
Correct. It's very much a team sport in a sense. So
Yeah.
that's something that I had to learn fairly quickly. Like there are other people counting on you, so we got to make sure that we do this right the first time.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. In terms of the actual construction, what do you think is some of the most challenging things of the role you do? What would you say is the things that have stretched you the most?
Definitely schedules.
Schedule.
Yeah, because I mean, so many things can happen. We can get a permit. We can literally have everything that we need, and say last minute the materials are
Something
no
go wrong.
longer being made. So now we have to figure out, okay, they don't make this material anymore. We got to find somewhere else, and we have to finish this job within 6 months. But it's going to take a month and a half for the materials to show up because they no longer make it. You're having to basically come up with solutions very quickly to meet a deadline that sometimes some things are just out of your control. And so you really have to be up on your feet. And also too, communication is a big, big thing. If one person doesn't communicate, that is the difference between.
It has a knock-on effect everywhere.
Say that again?
It has a knock-on effect everywhere else.
Yep, literally a domino effect. One person doesn't communicate, that could literally trash a job very quickly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think not just even in construction. I obviously work in a few different industries now. And I think communication is one of the major skills that anybody needs to be able to function in them industries. I totally agree. The most challenging part that I always found was the timelines and the schedules that had to be completed because there was so many variables and so many things out of your control.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on, majority of men, or most men, have been very supportive because of family and friends. Having been around the industry a little bit, was there any ever times where you felt uncomfortable or you felt out of place with working in the male dominated?
I wouldn't say uncomfortable. It would be more like intimidated.
Okay.
At first, definitely being the only woman would be at a meeting and the whole panel is all men and I'm the only woman. And so you're having to, you know, take up space that, you know, a couple years ago, there was none, you know, there weren't a lot of women that were working in the industry. So, you know, it's just one of those things where I've never experienced being uncomfortable, but definitely just intimidated because you're talking about people who've been in the industry for 20 plus years, who have that knowledge, that expertise,
That experience.
you know, and you're coming in fresh and you're essentially not just new, but also much younger and a female at the same time. So, you know, people they tend to watch and observe to see, okay, she's young, let's see if she actually knows what she's talking about or if she can pick up stuff fairly quickly. You know, sometimes you really have to want it. You have to be willing to prove people wrong sometimes.
Yeah, there's definitely that drive and hunger, I think, in the construction industry, maybe even a lot more than a few other industries out there because of the timeline and because of the scheduling aspect of it, probably. And I don't think that's even a male-female thing. It's just that everything seems urgent all the time. I don't know if that's the same in Florida, but whether it was Ireland or whether it's Australia, I've worked in construction, everything always seems urgent. So there's that aspect of it. So look, it's awesome that you're saying that you never felt that intimidation from other men. I think that's a really important message for a lot of females out there, because I spoke to you earlier off air and I was saying that my daughter is in mining here in Australia. And there is this perception. I was certainly concerned about her moving into that role. I encouraged it because I knew it would be good for her. But there is always a concern, I suppose, as a father, especially that, you know, they might feel uncomfortable at times. Now, she has assured me that it's never really happened to her either. She's in it for the last 6 years too. So I think it's important for other, you know, young females or older female, because we had a lot of older females move from different careers into construction later on, whenever I was project manager and operations manager. And I think for them to know that, I'm guessing Florida is similar to here, where there's a lot of regulations in place to make sure that comfort is there. Is that a true statement where you are as well? Yeah?
Oh, yes. Yep.
And I think it's, it's definitely not without time, because I'm sure early on, many years ago, wasn't probably as many well regulated for females coming in as it is now. So I think that's a very positive thing for the message I would send. Did you find you needed a lot of confidence moving into construction? Were you always a naturally confident person, Amanda? Was it something that grew with time? I'm guessing to move from, from where you were in terms of the real estate, then to go, okay, I'm going to try something different. I need to try something different and move into the construction. Did that take a lot of confidence, or are you a naturally confident person? Were you confident at school?
I think a little bit of both, to be honest.
Okay.
As a realtor, you really have to put yourself out there, because there's a big saying, you're not selling a house, you're selling yourself.
Yeah.
Appearance is everything in real estate. And being able to look someone in the eye and tell them this is a great deal, or this might not be the best deal for you. I think I have something better. You really have to be confident in what you're saying, because that could be the difference between somebody buying a house and not buying a house. They have to be comfortable with you. And that's like one of those things. There's a balance. Within construction, it's a little different in the sense that I'm not selling myself. I am a team. It's important that I'm a team player, that I can be coachable, I can learn. Software is always changing, and following safety guidelines is another thing. People, they don't like change. That's I think the advantage that I have at being young, that we kind of grew up with technology changing all the time, that we had no choice but to adapt to that. So I think being confident is one part, but also learning that, you don't have to do it all by yourself. You have a team of people to lean on, which you don't really get in real estate. That's kind of like one of those things that I think strikes me the most, is that confidence is a part of it, but also you've got a whole group of people that want to see you succeed, because in turn they succeed.
Yeah. I think the confidence is something that naturally develops as well the more you do something.
100%.
I think that, I suppose that you have to back yourself a little bit, maybe going into, and I think this is the same for any industry, whenever you go something, there's always that doubt. What if it doesn't work out? What if it goes wrong? So you have to take a little bit of, I suppose, have that belief in yourself or confidence in yourself that you can go on and do it. Then once you're doing it, the more you do it, the more confident you become. You mentioned, being quite young in this industry. Is it something like you thought whenever you were growing up at school that you would like to go into? Was there ever any thoughts in your head in school about, I want to go into construction?
Nope, no. Growing up, I wanted to be a prima ballerina. I had a tutu in one hand and a baby doll in the other. That was what I was. I was very much a girly girl, and I was going to be a ballerina, and I was going to be a princess. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. Even in middle school and high school, I majored in performing arts. So it was one of those things where it just kind of fell into my lap in a weird, just very positive way. Because I never would have guessed in a million years that this would have been the industry that I fell in love with. But it is a very great industry. I'm very happy.
That's excellent. What do you think is I suppose, the standout things that make it so enjoyable? Like I can tell already from talking to you, you really enjoy your work in the industry you do. What do you think, if you were really selling it to all the female listeners out there that might be out there, maybe they're finishing school, maybe they're getting close to finishing school, maybe they've been doing something for 10 years that they hate, and they're thinking, what should I do next? Why, from your perspective, do you enjoy it so much?
I'll list a couple of things. Realistically, we all work, right, to pay bills so that we can live, so that we can go and be able to do things that we enjoy. This industry is very lucrative. I mean, I've literally seen people with no college education, and they're making, almost $100,000 a year. And that's with maybe a year or two of experience.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I'm very well taken care of in this industry. I
Yeah.
can go on vacation. I can, look at maybe buying a house.
Yeah.
I can go into, buying investment properties. I can
Yeah.
buy a car. I
Mm.
can go grocery shopping without having to worry about,
Worry about the bank
okay,
accounts.
that's one aspect of it.
Mm.
The other aspect is the opportunities for growth
Yeah.
is literally there's no ceiling. The ability to be able to maybe even one day own my own construction
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
You can become a business owner in this industry. It's limitless. And that's like another thing, creativity, all of it, it just rolls into one.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the aspects about the industry that I love. And,
Yeah.
the others, the people, like I said, the work ethic and just being able to be a part of the community that, affects the community in a positive way. And meeting so many different people from different
Mm.
backgrounds and, people that went to college and some people who didn't go to college and just realizing, what this industry, the future of this industry
Yeah.
is. It really is the future
Yeah.
because like I said, you live your life in it. Every building, every office, everything is construction.
It's built from the
Yeah.
ground up. Yeah. In terms of college, can I ask, did you go to college?
I did not know.
Okay. Would you have ever liked to have went to college? Is it something you kind of thought about or considered?
My family, my mother, she has a master's in psychology and a bachelor's in human resources. Very
Mm.
intelligent, very smart. And, my grandparents before her, they were also college graduates. My father decided to forgo college and start a
Yeah.
business. So I had two sides basically
Mm.
telling me, go to college, the other said, start a business. And I learned from both of them. And the reality is that like I just didn't find anything that jumped out at me to
Yeah.
say, okay, this is the career I want. I need to go to
Mm.
college for this. And
Yeah.
I mean, let's be very honest, college these days is very expensive. And
Yeah.
if you are going to go to college, you need to make sure that you know that that's the career that you want to be in, that it's lucrative and that you're able to not only just pay your bills, but also pay those loans back.
Pay the loans back. Yeah. Very
Mhm.
true. Very, very
And
true.
I would say if I was to go to college, it would have to do with this industry somehow.
Mm.
But in this industry, I don't want to say that there's no need because I
Mm.
could very well be an exception. Experience is literally everything, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that I have learned. But yeah,
Obviously, I grew up in construction. My father was in construction and civil construction, and it was something that I went into quite young. I served my time as a bricklayer coming from school. I went into construction, straight out of school, 16. I was dyslexic, so in my head, going to college was never an option for me. It was something like, I'm not smart enough to go to college. I'm just going into construction. And like you said, the opportunities for people that are in construction that really want to grow and develop, challenge themselves and do well are endless. There's no limit to it. Now, I've worked alongside a lot of people that have went to college, engineers, project managers, architects, etc., that did go to college and done very well for themselves. So I do see both paths equally the exact same. If so, the opportunities, whether you go to college or whether you don't go to college, I see it as very much the exact same. And it's great that I think there is the opportunity for the people that maybe college isn't suited for, or for whatever reason, whether it's financial or whether it's academically, they're not in that space. I think it's a really good alternative for people sitting there that's thinking, I have to go to college in order to be successful in life. I think certainly construction for me was one way of showing that regardless of your background, regardless of what you've kind of know or your knowledge or your skill level, you can do very well in the construction industry if you put your mind to it and work hard. I think is probably the biggest thing. You mentioned there that in the future, maybe college is on the agenda. You come across to me, Amanda, as somebody that has a really good, strong mindset. I hope you don't mind me saying.
no, not at all.
I'm sure that it probably has a bit to do with your parents and how you were brought up. I've no doubt about it. But there's also, I know mindset comes from deep inside as well. Where does that strong mindset come from, do you think?
I would say, yeah, a little bit of both. definitely from my parents and lived experience. The mindset, I guess it really just boils down to everybody has a role model. Everybody has someone that
Yeah.
they look up to. Kids see cartoons and they think, superheroes, things like that. And I guess I got to learn from both of my parents in the sense that I saw one avenue where she went to college and it worked well for her. And I saw the other avenue where my dad didn't go to college, started a business, and it worked well for him. And I think for me, I was like, well, what if I don't start a business? And what if I don't go to college? What does that look like? And that's when I chose real estate. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it was very difficult. Definitely learned a lot. And, some people are very successful as a realtor. I know plenty that, they made a business out of it and they are very, very successful. That's not to say that that couldn't have happened, but in my time, I guess in my story, it just didn't work out that way. But, everything happens for a reason. And I think, that mindset really does come from experience and also, your environment. I think both played into how I see life and just a little bit of everything. You really have to own your experiences. And sometimes something that's perceived as negative can become a positive. I mean, like I said, talk about living paycheck to paycheck. You're not getting paid, 30 to 90 days out. And now you're having to, wait tables on the side or get a temp job just to make ends meet. So that grit that you kind of have to have, everybody has that survival instinct, but it's so much more than that. It's really just like, I want to make something of myself. I'm going to make something of myself. So now let's figure out how to do it. And
I really like that mindset, Amanda. It's something that I've worked with a lot of. You get to my age, you work with a lot of people over the years. You meet a lot of people over the years, and you get to experience both sides of the world. People that have that very positive outlook, where they kind of look at any situation, something goes wrong, it's challenging, and they're just able to turn it into a positive. They're able to go, okay, what am I going to do now with this situation to make it a positive? And there's other people that really struggle with that. And there's the people that's kind of in between. Do you think, were you always naturally that way inclined, where you were like, okay, this hasn't maybe worked out, or maybe, I know I will make this work? Like, they were very powerful words, or you said, I know what I want to do, and I know I have to do, I have to go out. Was that a skill you learned, or do you think were you naturally that way?
I think my mom likes to say that as a kid, I had my own mind at a very young age. If, other kids, I don't know if you've heard that saying, well, if one kid jumped off a bridge, would you go and do it? And I'd be like, Mom, chances are I was the kid who decided to jump off the bridge first.
I'm leading the pack.
Yeah, I was not easily influenced, if that makes sense. So I had my own mind. And I mean, like any kid, I would say school was probably the most difficult aspect for me. I was what you called a C student. No matter how much I tried, school was just not interesting for me. But, I think one of the biggest lessons that my mom taught me was you learn just as much from failure as you do success.
It's very true.
I think that because my mom allowed me to fail and really say, okay, you know what, you didn't get an A, but you tried, you studied, you did what you did.
You did the hard work.
That's right. That did not mean that, okay, next test, you're allowed to get a C. No, you still have to study. You still have to work hard. You're just going to have to work harder than the other people who make straight A's. And I mean, this is coming because my brother, for example, he had a photographic memory. So he was a straight A student his whole life. He was doing my parents' taxes, in high school. He was just very, very intelligent, very, very good. We were just opposites. But some things came easy for him and other things didn't. But in this industry gives you that opportunity to really use your
skills you
your
have.
strength. Yes, 100%.
I totally agree.
You don't need to be Einstein in this industry. You have to know how to use your brain. And, some common sense is definitely
I have my sister. Your story very much resonates with me because I have a sister and she's 2 years older than me. And again, while we were coming up in school, very, very clever. Could just, she said it seemed effortless to her. My sister worked very, very hard at what she was doing at school, but it came effortlessly to her. And I worked very, very hard at school, but it was just a struggle all the time. I was maybe even a D or an E, so I was maybe slightly lower than you whenever it came to the school. I don't even think it's just the construction industry. I think once people leave school and once they go into whatever comes next, that's where a lot of kind of attitude comes into play, mindset comes into play. It's like, how determined am I to make this successful? How determined am I to learn from my mistakes? And it seems that's something you've nailed very, very well, Amanda. So in terms of what's next, where do you see yourself going? What plans have you? What are you driving for? What would you like to achieve?
Well, I mean, taking over the world, one day at a time. But realistically, I just want to empower the younger generations. I want to get in front of the younger generations, women, and really show them what this industry is. I want to go to other podcasts. I want to speak to other people and really show them that this is an option. The trades in general, I think, kind of have, I don't want to say a bad rap, but just I think there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to the trades. I think a lot of people think that, the trades is, in some people's minds, backbreaking work, and that's all it is. And if you want to be successful, you have to only go to college. And it's so far from the truth. For me, the future really is, I want to continue in commercial construction, project management. Like I said, take over the world and really just show the younger generation that this is not just, something that is a fulfilling industry, but a lucrative one where you could have a future, you could own a business, you could take care of your family, in this industry. You really could.
I think it's an excellent and a very powerful message, Amanda. And whenever I seen your LinkedIn post, and I do recommend everybody check out your LinkedIn, and where else can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram, Amanda Knows Construction.
Excellent.
And I am on Facebook, but unfortunately my name, Amanda Torres, is very, very popular. So it's kind of hard to find me on there.
Yeah, no, I encourage everybody to go and check it out, because it was one of your posts that I had seen on Facebook about females coming into construction and very much promoting that really made me reach out and ask you, would you be a guest, because it was definitely very inspiring for me as a father of two young girls to see that. And I think it's a really important message that you have. So I encourage you to continue down that line and do that. Certainly, I think you're doing excellent work in that space. In terms of project management, what do you think you still have to learn? What are you hoping to achieve in that space? Like you mentioned, maybe having your own business someday. I like the fact that you don't put any limits on it. A lot of people that I work with in the coaching space, I'm like, don't put limits on what you can achieve. And you definitely have that mindset. What do you think skills you might need to still develop in project management? What do you think are the most important ones?
For me, I guess it would just be leading people, managing people, because that's what project management really is. You can know everything about construction frontwards to backwards, but managing people come in different shapes and sizes and personalities, and really understanding how to lead a group of people to make sure that a project stays on track, keeping a positive environment. That's something that I look forward to honing, my skills. That's what I look forward to learning, really.
Yeah. Well, look, you've nailed it. You've actually nailed exactly what it takes to be a successful project manager. A good culture and being able to get people to work together. Like it's absolutely totally all you need from somebody that has been in that space for quite a while. And it can be challenging getting people to work together and want to do the right thing and achieve something together. But I think the really good leaders and the really good project managers are able to do that because they understand how important it is to create that good environment. And I've no doubt that the more female and the more mix of people from different backgrounds and different parts of the world coming into a different team, I do think diversity in any team is a very vital part of that project management as well. I've no doubt you'll be amazing in that space and you'll go on to do amazing things. Amanda, if you had one message for our listeners, what would that be?
I would just say that take chances, take risks in your life. If you're going to change a career, if you're going to, do something different, don't be afraid to go after what you want in life. Even if you think you're underqualified or even overqualified, the sky is really the limit when you choose to trust yourself. You can get advice from family, from friends, but at the end of the day, nobody is living your life. And this industry can really be a blessing if you allow it to. And, I think that if you really want something, you 100% can get it if you truly believe that that you can achieve it. It isn't even about deserve. It's not about any of those things. It's really about what do you want out of life, and are you brave enough to go and get it?
I think that's a very, very powerful message, because it's one that I wish I had a knew probably younger in life. I figured it out later in my mid-30s that, okay, if I put my mind to something and I really want to achieve it, then all I have to do is figure out, where am I? Where do I want to go? And what's the knowledge I need to find out in between times? What's the skills I need to have in between time? And that's basically what you've just said. Once you figure out what you want to achieve, then it's just a case of, okay, here I am at the moment. What do I need to know? What skills do I need? What resources do I need to get me to where I want to go? And whether that's in project management, we are thinking, okay, this is what I need to achieve in 8 months' time. I have to have this project complete, or whether it's life in general, just being able to go, okay, that's what we're trying to achieve. What do we need to learn? It's an excellent, powerful message. Amanda, I really do want to thank you for coming on the show today. And
thanks for the invite.
I say to a lot of our guests that it would be really good to have you maybe back on again in the future, see how your story's going, where you're at, if you're still loving construction. Yeah, if you're up for that. So we'll keep in touch. We'll keep in touch, and we'll certainly get follows up in the future so the listeners can continue and follow on in your journey. Are you open to, if our listeners has any questions or any comments, that they can put them into the chat and you can respond? I really do appreciate that. Amanda, I do want to thank you for your time today. I know time's very precious to everybody, and I really do appreciate yours. And I hope you have a lovely week ahead.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
No worries, Amanda.
And now for the legal part. I'm not a registered mental health professional. I'm just some guy who has gone through life, that's dealt with a lot of issues, and that has really wanted to move his life from where it was to where he wanted to go. And along that journey, with my own personal development, with my own growth, I've done a lot of research and studying into what it takes to get us to a better place, what it took to get me to a better place. I've also done a certificate in results coaching, where that qualifies me to coach other people in terms of improving their lives. But I want to stress, regardless of whether you go to a mental health professional, or whether you go and talk to a friend down the road, or whether you reach out to the Feck It No More team, the onus is definitely on you to help improve your life. And I want to thank you for showing up today, for listening, for getting involved. That shows that you care about your growth and your development and getting you to a better place. And I really appreciate the time that you have taken to reach out. So until the next time, I'll be waiting. I'll be available to help, support, as I know majority of our community will be too. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for you showing up.